Okay, so get ready because today we are diving deep into the world of Machiavelli.
Ooh, Machiavelli.
Yeah, you've probably heard of him, right?
Of course.
You might even know him as like the ends justify the means guy, but
Right.
trust me, there's way more to him than just that little soundbite.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And today we're going way beyond those like typical Machiavellian stereotypes.
Okay, so I like it.
We're going deep.
Deep dive.
We got a ton of sources too.
Lay it on me.
Okay, we've got YouTube videos from like history buffs, and then we've got political commentary. Oh, and even some self-help gurus who are trying to apply Machiavelli's ideas to modern life.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be wild.
I'm ready.
So are you ready to like uncover the real Machiavelli?
Absolutely. I think what's fascinating about Machiavelli is that he still gets people fired up
Right.
centuries later.
Yeah.
He's one of those figures who just forces us to ask these really tough questions,
Yeah.
about power and morality.
Yeah, and like what it really means to be human.
Exactly. And to really understand his impact, I think we need to go beyond just the prince,
Yes.
and see the full scope of his work.
Yeah, totally.
The prince is important,
Oh, for sure.
but it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Right, like you hear Machiavelli and you just automatically think the prince. But this guy was prolific. He wrote plays, poems, historical analysis. I mean,
All over the place.
I am kind of excited to uncover the stuff that they don't teach in school.
I think you'll be surprised.
Okay.
But to set the stage, I think we should talk about Machiavelli, the man.
Okay.
He wasn't just some armchair theorist.
Yeah.
He was a Florentine official
Okay.
in the thick of Italian politics.
Right.
And let me tell you, Renaissance Italy was a hot mess.
Oh, I bet.
It was like a political Game of Thrones, but with more backstabbing and way more stylish outfits.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so picture this, right?
Right?
Italy's divided into all of these city-states.
Yep.
They're constantly fighting each other.
Right.
Plus, on top of that, you've got France and Spain trying to grab a slice of the action.
Always.
And then you've got Machiavelli right in the middle of all of this chaos, trying to keep Florence afloat.
Try to keep his head above water.
I know.
It was a tough job.
Yeah.
And that experience really shaped his thinking.
Yeah.
Florence itself was a unique case.
Okay.
They had this republic thing going on. But then this powerful Medici family kept taking over.
Oh, yeah.
Getting kicked out, and then coming back for more.
That's exhausting.
It was chaos.
Sounds like it.
Machiavelli saw firsthand how fragile power could be.
Yeah.
And how quickly things could shift from order to absolute mayhem.
Oh, yeah. Talk about on-the-job training, right?
Definitely.
And it gets even crazier, right? Didn't he actually end up imprisoned by the Medici?
He did.
What?
And not just a slap on the wrist, we're talking torture.
Oh, my God.
This was after the Medici came back to power.
Right.
They saw Machiavelli as a threat.
I bet they did.
You can imagine how that kind of experience would make someone a little cynical about politics.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Maybe a little less trusting.
Yeah, I'd be writing a book about how to survive in that world, too.
I think he had some things to say about survival.
I bet he did.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, if those experiences, the imprisonment, the torture, if they directly led to some of the ideas he expresses in The Prince.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a connection.
Yeah.
Machiavelli's work is all about understanding power.
Right.
Both how to acquire it and how to hold on to it.
Yeah.
Especially in a world where everyone seems to be out for themselves.
Okay, so we've got this backdrop of cutthroat Italian politics,
Yeah.
Machiavelli's own rough experiences.
It was rough.
It kind of makes sense why the prince gets all of the attention.
Right.
But
It's just one piece of the puzzle.
exactly, it's just one piece of the puzzle. He wrote so much more.
So much more.
Like we were talking about his plays earlier, specifically Magicola.
Oh, yeah.
Like who knew that the evil Machiavelli also had a comedic side?
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's a great example of how multifaceted Machiavelli was.
Oh, okay.
Mandragola is this hilarious, scandalous play
Yeah.
that basically roasts the Catholic Church.
Oh, wow.
You wouldn't expect that from the evil Machiavelli.
No, not at all.
But if you think about it, there is a connection to The Prince.
Okay.
Both are about power dynamics.
Okay.
But in Mandragola, it's more about social and religious power,
Okay.
not just political.
So it's like he's saying, hey, power games aren't just for princes and kings.
Right.
They're happening everywhere.
All over the place.
Which actually I think makes it even more relevant to us today.
Absolutely. It's all around us.
Yeah.
And this actually leads us to one of Machiavelli's key concepts,
Okay.
the effective truth.
The effective truth.
He wasn't interested in idealism
Okay.
or moral preaching.
Mm-hmm.
He was all about observing how people actually behave.
Okay, so
Not how they should behave.
got it.
but how they actually behave.
So he's saying...
He's saying, don't listen to what people say, watch what they do.
Oh, that is so relevant today.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about social media or politicians making all sorts of promises.
Promises they can't keep.
I know Machiavelli would probably be like...
Yeah, whatever.
Right. Show me the receipts.
Exactly.
Give all the proof.
He'd tell us to look past the spin.
Okay.
The carefully crafted image. And just focus on actions on results.
Okay.
What are people actually doing? Not just saying,
yeah,
that's where the real truth lies.
All right, so let's get to the juicy stuff.
Ooh, here we go.
Let's talk about the prince.
Let's do it.
Because you can't talk about Machiavelli without addressing those, like, notorious quotes.
I know.
It is better to be feared than love. The ends justify the means.
Classic. The good stuff.
Yeah, and those are just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Oh, yeah.
Remember the story about Cesare Borgia?
Oh, yeah, Cesare Borgia.
Having his minister executed and then publicly dismembered?
Not a good way to go.
No, not at all. But Machiavelli actually praises Borgia for this.
Really?
Saying that it was a brilliant move.
Wow.
To instill fear and consolidate power.
Talk about brutal.
Yeah, that's definitely not your typical self-help advice.
Not exactly a feel-good story.
No, but you've got to see it in context, right?
Yeah, I mean...
Machiavelli's writing for rulers in a world where violence is like the norm.
Yeah.
Where losing power can mean losing your life.
Yeah, the stakes were high.
So...
He's not saying cruelty is a good thing.
Right.
But he's arguing that sometimes a leader needs to make those really tough choices.
Okay.
To maintain order.
Right.
It's that whole idea the ends justify the means.
Right.
Which has been debated for centuries.
Oh, for sure. So is he saying that a leader should just be like a straight-up tyrant?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
Machiavelli also talks about the importance of keeping promises.
Oh, really?
But only when it's advantageous to do so.
Okay.
Yeah, there's always a catch.
Always a little caveat.
Right.
Yeah.
He even says that people value their property more than their families.
Whoa.
Which is a pretty cynical take on human nature, even for his time.
Yeah, okay, now that's just cold.
Right.
But it does make you think.
It makes you think.
Does that still hold true today?
I don't know.
I mean, think about how much people just obsess over their stuff, their social media image, their...
The perfect selfie.
I know. It's like, are we really that different from those Florentines back in the day?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
It gets to the heart of what Machiavelli was trying to do.
Which is?
Expose the reality of human behavior.
Okay.
Even the ugly parts, so we can understand how power really works.
Okay, so we've got this image of, like, the ruthless, punning prince.
Yeah.
But then there's this other, like, really famous Machiavelli concept, right?
Oh, yeah.
The fox and the lion.
The fox and the lion.
It's like he's saying...
What's he saying?
Hey, being a leader isn't just about brute force. You need brains, too.
You got to have both.
You've got to have both.
Right, so a good ruler needs that cunning of a fox.
Okay.
To navigate all these complex situations.
Right.
But also the strength of a lion to take decisive action.
Right.
He uses the example of the Roman army's success because it was made up of citizens who were personally invested in the outcome.
Interesting.
Like, think about a figure like, say, Tony Blair.
Tony Blair, okay.
Was he all lion, or did he have a healthy dose of fox in him, too?
That's a good question.
Right?
Blair definitely had that whole, like, charming, persuasive thing going on.
Yeah, he did.
And he knew how to play the political game.
He was a good player.
So maybe he's a perfect example of that fox and lion combo.
He might be.
Yeah.
And what's brilliant about this concept is that it applies beyond just politics.
Okay.
Like, whether you're leading a team at work, negotiating a deal,
right,
or even just trying to survive a family holiday gathering.
Oh, yeah, those can be tough.
You know, sometimes you need to be bold and assertive.
No, the lion.
The lion.
Got it.
And sometimes you need to be more strategic and adaptable.
The fox.
The fox, exactly.
Okay.
It's all about reading the situation.
Right.
And knowing which approach will be most effective.
So Machiavelli's basically giving us a masterclass in how to navigate the world.
That's what he's doing.
Even if we're not running a country.
Exactly. And whether we agree with him or not, he forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about power and human nature.
Yeah.
And that's why he's still so relevant today.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Machiavelli's life, the crazy world that he lived in.
Crazy times.
Yeah, some of those shocking bits from The Prince.
Oh, yeah, we had to.
But we've only just scratched the surface.
We've got more to uncover.
We've got to go beyond The Prince to really understand this guy.
I agree.
So stay tuned because we are going to dive into all of that and more.
Coming up next.
Okay, so we've explored, like, the wild world of Renaissance Italy and Machiavelli's own, like, experiences with power and imprisonment, even torture.
Yeah, it was a rough time.
And let's be honest, the Prince is full of these shocking moments
Oh, yeah.
that make you wonder, like, was this guy a political genius?
Right.
Or just straight up ruthless?
Yeah, a little bit of both, maybe.
But we also hinted that there's more to Machiavelli than just the Prince, right?
Absolutely. The Prince often overshadows his other works.
Right.
But they're crucial to understanding the full scope of his thought.
Okay.
And that's where Discourses on Livy comes in.
Discourses on Livy.
Yeah, this is where Machiavelli really dives deep into the history of the Roman Republic,
Okay.
trying to figure out what made them so successful.
So we're trading in sneaky princes for, like, toga-clad senators.
Exact.
Sign me up.
Right.
But I'm curious with the Discourses, is Machiavelli, like, suddenly advocating for democracy and everyone holds hands kumbaya?
Not quite.
Okay.
What's fascinating about the Discourses is that Machiavelli doesn't see the Roman Republic as some perfect utopia.
Okay.
He actually believes that their success came from conflict and tension.
Really?
Yeah, he thought that the struggle between the common people and the elites,
Okay.
the constant clash of different factions, kept the system from becoming like stagnant or tyrannical.
Wait, so conflict is like a good thing?
In a way, yes.
I thought Machiavelli was all about like a strong ruler keeping everyone in line.
Well, it's more about channeling that conflict productively.
Okay.
He saw the Roman Republic's system of checks and balances,
Right.
with its various assemblies and offices, as a way to harness that tension
Okay.
and prevent anyone or any group from grabbing too much power.
Okay.
He saw that constant churn, the debates, the disagreements, as a kind of pressure valve
Okay.
that prevented the system from exploding.
So instead of one all-powerful prince making all the decisions, you've got this system where different groups
Right.
have to constantly like negotiate and compromise.
That's the idea.
That's a pretty radical idea,
It is.
especially for Machiavelli's time.
Yeah, and he even argues that a well-structured republic could be more stable
Okay.
and long-lasting than a principality.
Really?
He pointed to the Roman Republic's expansion
Okay.
and military success as evidence of its strength and adaptability.
So he's looking at it from a practical standpoint?
Exactly. Remember, Machiavelli was a pragmatist.
Okay.
He was interested in what worked,
Right.
not just abstract theory.
Not just ideas.
Right.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this fits with his other ideas.
Yeah.
It's like in The Prince, he's saying, hey, if you're in a world of chaos and you need to establish order quickly,
Right.
a strong prince might be necessary.
In the short term.
Right. But in the Discourses, he's exploring this idea that a republic
Yeah.
with its built-in mechanisms for dealing with conflict
Yeah.
could be a more sustainable model for the long term.
Exactly. It's not about choosing one system over the other.
Okay.
It's about understanding the dynamics of power
Okay.
in different contexts.
So different tools for different situations.
Yeah, Machiavelli was, in a way, a political scientist,
Interesting.
trying to dissect how power operates in the real world.
Okay.
He wasn't afraid to look at the messy, sometimes brutal realities of politics.
Right.
Which is partly why he still makes people so uncomfortable.
Okay, that makes him way more complex than just the, like, evil mastermind stereotype.
Way more.
So where do his plays fit into all of this?
It's a good question.
We talked about Mandrabola earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Which sounds kind of outrageous.
It is.
Even for today's standards.
Absolutely.
It's full of satire and wits-popping fun at social conventions, and even religious hypocrisy.
You know, he wasn't afraid to push the boundaries.
It also reveals, like, another side of Machiavelli.
What's that?
Like the keen observer of human folly and the absurdities of life.
He saw it all.
Yeah. Okay, remind me what Mandrabola is about again.
Right.
It's the one where a guy tricks another guy into sleeping with his wife
Yes.
so he can have an affair, right?
That's the one. It's a classic.
Oh my God.
It's scandalous.
Yeah.
But also insightful.
Okay.
The main character, Callimaco.
Callimaco?
He's a classic Machiavellian figure.
Okay.
He's cunning. He's manipulative. He's driven by desire.
Okay.
He uses his intelligence and his charm to get what he wants.
Okay.
Even if it means bending the rules.
I'm seeing those themes of power and deception again.
They're there.
But this time it's applied to, like, personal relationships.
Exactly.
It's like Machiavellian saying, hey, these power dynamics aren't just for princes and pokes.
Right.
They're playing out in our everyday lives, too.
Through all aspects of life.
Which is kind of terrifying.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's true.
And even though it's a comedy, Mandragola raises some serious questions about morality and whether the ends always justify the means.
Does it?
Yeah.
Even in matters of the heart.
Makes you think.
It does. It forces us to ask, are we all capable of a little Machiavellianism when it comes to getting what we want?
Especially in love.
especially in love.
Right.
Right.
This makes that whole effective truth idea even more interesting.
It does.
Like, on the surface, Machiavelli's work can seem cynical
Mm-hmm.
and even shocking.
Right.
But underneath, there's this deeper exploration of human nature morality
The big question.
and how we build a functioning society.
He was ahead of his time.
It's like he holding up a mirror to us
Yeah.
and saying, look, this is how it is. Deal with it.
Deal with it.
Right.
And I think that's why he remains so relevant.
I agree.
He doesn't offer any easy answers.
Yeah.
He doesn't sugarcoat reality.
Right.
He challenges us to confront these fundamental questions about power,
Mm-hmm.
ambition, the choices we make,
Yeah.
both individually and collectively.
This has been a fantastic journey through Machiavelli's world so far.
It really has.
We've gone from, like, scheming princes and ancient Rome.
And we've been everywhere.
I know, to scandalous comedies and, like, these timeless questions about human nature.
It's all connected.
But how have his ideas been interpreted and applied over the centuries?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
That's what we're going to explore in the final part of our deep dive.
All right.
We'll explore Machiavelli's legacy
Okay.
and how his ideas have influenced everyone from infamous dictators
Okay.
to modern-day business leaders.
I can't wait.
Get ready for some surprises.
Okay, so we've gone, like, deep into Machiavelli's world.
Yeah, we have.
His life, his works,
Mm-hmm.
the shocking ideas about power and human nature.
It's a lot to unpack.
I know, but here's the big question, like,
Okay?
how does all this stuff from the 16th century
Right.
still matter to us today?
That's the most exciting part.
It is.
Machiavelli's legacy.
Okay.
It isn't just stuck in history books.
Okay.
His ideas have resonated through the centuries,
Wow.
influencing leaders, thinkers, even everyday people.
Yeah, we've all heard that word Machiavellian thrown around.
Oh, yeah.
To describe someone who's, like, cunning or manipulative, maybe even a little ruthless.
Right. It's become a stereotype.
Right, but I'm starting to think that there's a lot more to it than that simple label.
You're right. Machiavelli's influence is way more nuanced and complex than you might think.
Okay.
He's been praised and demonized, interpreted, and completely misinterpreted.
Wow.
But the one thing that's constant is this.
What's that?
He forces us to look at the realities of power
Okay.
and the choices that we make when we're trying to get it.
So who are some of the big names throughout history who've been connected to Machiavelli?
Well, one figure who immediately comes to mind is Joseph Stalin.
Stalin.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Now, Stalin was a brutal dictator, ruled the Soviet Union with an iron fist,
Right.
responsible for some horrific things.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
He was known to have a copy of The Prince on his desk,
Really?
even annotated it.
Wow, that's a little creepy, right?
It's a little unsettling.
Yeah, so Stalin, like, actually saw Machiavelli as some kind of role model?
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
But Stalin clearly understood the principles of power that Machiavelli outlined.
Okay, like what?
Well, he eliminated his rivals.
Mm-hmm.
He built a cult of personality around himself,
Right,
used propaganda to control information.
right.
All very Machiavellian tactics, if you think about it.
Wow, yeah, that does sound a lot like the kind of prince that Machiavelli described in his book.
Yeah, someone willing to do whatever it takes to stay in control.
But didn't Machiavelli also warn about becoming hated by the people?
He did.
And Stalin was definitely not a popular guy, especially by the end of his reign.
That's a great point, and it shows how complicated Machiavelli's legacy really is.
Right.
He wasn't promoting tyranny
Okay.
or saying that being cruel is good in itself.
Right.
He was trying to give a realistic assessment of how power works in the real world,
Right.
not some idealized, sugar-coated version.
So Stalin might have taken some of Machiavelli's ideas to the extreme.
He might have.
But that doesn't mean that Machiavelli himself would have endorsed everything Stalin did.
Exactly. We have to be careful not to confuse the thinker with those who might twist his ideas to fit their own agenda.
Right, okay, that makes sense. So, beside of Stalin, are there any other examples of Machiavelli's influence popping up in history?
Oh, absolutely. His ideas aren't limited to political leaders.
Okay,
Think about the business world.
okay.
There are tons of self-help books and business advice that basically pull strategies straight from Machiavelli.
Really?
Yeah, like focusing on competition, knowing when to be ruthless, building strategic alliances.
So it's like Machiavelli for CEOs.
Exactly.
But are people really using these ideas in business today?
Absolutely. Of course, it's important to use those ideas ethically and responsibly.
Right, of course.
But understanding power dynamics, negotiation tactics, strategic thinking,
Right.
all those things that Machiavelli explored,
Mm-hmm.
they're still valuable tools in any field, especially business.
It's wild to think that a writer from the 1500s could still be so relevant today.
He was ahead of his time.
So what would you say is Machiavelli's most enduring legacy?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
But I think one of his biggest contributions was this insistence on seeing the world as it is,
Okay.
not as we wish it to be.
Right.
He challenged those idealistic views of his time and forced people to confront the often harsh realities of power and politics.
He was like that friend who tells you the truth.
Yeah.
Even if it's not what you want to hear.
Exactly. And while some might see that as cynical,
Right.
I think it's also incredibly empowering.
How so?
Because once you understand the rules of the game, you can actually start playing it more effectively.
Okay.
You're not caught off guard. You can anticipate moves, protect yourself.
So it's not about being Machiavellian in the sense of being manipulative or ruthless.
Right.
It's about being aware of the power dynamics in any situation.
Exactly.
And making smart decisions based on that awareness.
That's a great way to put it. And it's a lesson we can apply to any part of our lives.
Yeah.
Whether you're leading a team at work, negotiating a deal, or even navigating your personal relationships.
This deep dive into Machiavelli has been amazing.
It has been fun.
We've gone from scheming princes to ancient Rome.
We've covered it all.
I know scandalous comedies, even ruthless dictators.
It's been a journey.
And through it all, we've seen how his insights into power, ambition, and human nature are still relevant centuries later.
They really are timeless.
So the next time you hear someone called Machiavellian, remember, it's not just a label.
Right.
It's a reminder of the complex realities of power,
Mm-hmm.
the choices we face, and the timeless questions that Machiavelli asked.
Big questions.
And maybe, just maybe, with a little bit of Machiavelli's wisdom, applied thoughtfully and ethically, we can all navigate the world a little bit better.
I think so.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.